With the upcoming release of the Switch 2 this year and titles such as Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza around the corner, the hype train for Nintendo keeps on chugging.
We got some bad news when it comes to prices for Switch 2.
$80?
I'm sorry, baby. Little Timmy ain't going to college. I need to get Donkey Kong.
Mario Kart should cost $90.
Okay, well, maybe it's more divisive than that, but I got to asking myself how a company like Nintendo gets me to feel excited even in times like this. And not just with the Switch 2, but like everything. I was one of the 2 people in Ohio that had a Wii U, damn it. In an industry that seems determined to burn up the goodwill of its audience in a sacrificial bonfire every month, how does Nintendo manage to be so special?
It is a night of anticipation, another night of anticipation for video game fans as Nintendo's latest console goes on sale just after midnight. Several stores in our area are planning to be open to sell the Wii units to very eager customers. Gamers who've tried Wii say they love the controllers, which actually match the player's movements to the action on the screen.
When asking what makes Nintendo so special, most answers you'll hear will boil down to innovation. They've been in the game for so long and have paved the way forward in game design for decades. The modern platformer, open world adventures, Metroidvanias, 3D camera controls, motion controls, hybrid systems, the list can stretch on for miles and miles. Nintendo has put itself in the same league as companies like Disney or McDonald's, entities that warp the medium around themselves. You can't think of animated movies without thinking about Disney. You can't think about fast food without thinking about McDonald's.
Thank you.
Come on, everybody, pick up trash.
Here's the can. Here I am.
AJ, what the hell was that? The trash cans are talking. I mean, do they just starve if they don't eat You know what? Whatever. We're gonna move on. Whatever, it works. It's fine. And you can't think about video games without thinking about Nintendo. Nintendo has been the big man on campus since the early days of the gaming industry, right after the infamous market crash in the Atari days. Back then, Nintendo managed to survive the lack of consumer confidence in these fancy electronic toys by providing consistently high quality games stamped with the official Nintendo seal of quality. Those of you with older grandparents can attest to, for a long time, that most consoles would be referred to as Nintendos for this reason. How's that for cultural dominance? You can't hope to enter the gaming space without paying respect to Nintendo's design legacy in some form or another. Even if you want to go against the grain and defy their methodology, that is still recognition. To be against Nintendo still requires a fundamental understanding of what the company is and what they stand for, which got me thinking. I want to go a step further in answering that question of what makes Nintendo so special. It's less about the company itself and rather everyone else around them. Nintendo is a creative well.
Creative well? What do you mean by that?
Well.
Nope. Cutting you off there. Explain it normally.
Okay, fine. A creative well refers to a source of inspiration, something so impactful that other creatives come seeking knowledge from the source, ergo a person going to drink water from the well.
Oh, I get you. So like in the same way that your ship setup is stealing from space coast to coast.
I wouldn't call it stealing per se, but...
Dude, you literally have Diet Zorak at the terminal behind you.
Who let him in here? Fans of the channel will know I've discussed the practice of sampling before in my discussion of No More Heroes, and if you haven't watched it already, now's your chance to. But in summary, sampling refers to the act of reusing a pre-existing work to some degree to incorporate in your own piece. Sampling as a term is used in the music world with songs ripping riffs or lyrics from one track to make something new. A great example of this is with the music of Daft Punk with songs like Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger taking Cola Bottle Baby by Edwin Birdsong. Take a listen. But this creative tool extends outside of music too. Phantom of the Paradise is a movie built upon stories like Phantom of the Opera, The Picture of Dorian Gray, and Faust. It wears those influences on its sleeve to help convey the story without taking too much time away from the massive plates of cheese and wood it gives its actors to gnaw on. Sampling's main appeal is to call an homage to the audience. It is a reward for those that are paying attention or fans of the genre. It is like peering into the mind of the artist and seeing what makes them tick, What are their influences? What are they trying to say? Is there a thematic reason for this to be here? These are all questions the observer asks, and it makes a more engaging piece. Back to Nintendo. Let's look at their library for a sec and observe it with the perspective of sampling. Going off of the list I mentioned earlier, it is easy to see how these things have been taken and repurposed. In regards to modern platforming, Sonic is a response to Super Mario Bros. Established gameplay. It took the groundwork of the 2D platformer and prioritized speed as a reward system, something that Super Mario Bros. Didn't really have. Keeping up with the plumber, Mario 64 did the same thing with 3D platformers. Lo and behold, Banjo-Kazooie comes in, takes the same idea and makes it about the journey more than the destination. The world feels lived in and you want to see the crazy characters that populate it. Banjo couldn't have done this if Mario 64 didn't figure out the established formula. But why Nintendo? It can't just be legacy or age, because Atari was established in the video game industry before Nintendo and it's not even comparable in modern influence. If you're asking this bear's opinion, I would say it is a mix of simplicity and mastery. Nintendo games are simple to pick up and play, but offer enough depth to strive to master. Splatoon is simple as a shooter can get in terms of understanding the baseline concept. Your objective is to cover the map with as much of your ink as possible using the variety of tools offered to you. If you cannot or don't want to participate in the player versus player element actively, you can do a lot to just support your team by doing this admittedly simple task. But if you want to master the gameplay and play competitively, the game offers a wide variety of strategies and weapons to grasp and consider in every round, while never drifting from the all-important central game of spreading your fluids all around the battlefield, which came out very wrong. Splooge. And with that open of a design, it allows for others to build off the concept from either or both perspectives and come up with something new from that. Earthbound, something that I hold very sacred, is crafted with this iterative design philosophy that ends up sampling much of the trends of the JRPGs in the SNES era. Gameplay-wise, it is a parody of JRPGs while also being a respected entry in the genre. Both Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest established the importance of talking to the townsfolk and gathering information through those interactions. Earthbound takes that idea and makes it a giant joke. Everyone you talk to in the game is teeing up a punchline. If you didn't know what JRPGs are or what you're supposed to do, you could skip over this and miss an incredible part of what makes Earthbound so special. And the best part is, when Nintendo does it, it goes into the well and other people pull from that inspiration too. Take a shot for every Earthbound inspired game that you've heard of. One Shot, Yumaniki, Lisa the Painful, Off, Yik, Night in the Woods, Amori, Oddity, Deltarune, Undertale. Are you dead yet? Because I would be. Let's talk about Undertale while thinking about sampling. Undertale was not only built on the back of Earthbound, but other early Nintendo games too. In fact, you could say it immerses itself through Nintendo's entire design philosophy. The company and its designers firmly believe in the idea of technical limitations promoting fun and unique experiences. You can do a lot with a little, and this philosophy has been present ever since Nintendo started to make games. You could never fully emulate PC or arcade games on the limited technology of consoles at the time, so what could be done to create a fun experience without relying on the latest tech? You start off with a simple gameplay loop, let the player understand the bare minimum, test them, and add a twist to the norm. Super Mario Bros. Does this incredibly well, something not worth discussing because of the variety of videos already made on the subject, but it keeps up to Super Mario Wonder. Its simplicity is truly its brilliance, and Toby Fox knew this when creating Undertale and Deltarune. The bullet board starts off very simple, and over time, as you understand the basics, it builds into a mini-game playground with a variety of influences and inspirations. Not only is it a love letter to different game genres, but an expression of its own through limitations. Toby Fox was learning how to code when making Undertale. He had to get creative through constraints just like Nintendo. What better way to do that than play off the pre-existing formulas and rules to build your own battle system? When you play through Undertale, you get to enjoy a wide sample platter of games presented through its bullet board. Platformers, space shooters, rhythm games, bullet hells, social sims. Toby Fox clearly had love and passion for these games, and ultimately it shines through into an original work of his own. Through the work of others, he was able to craft a path for himself and etch a name into the genre forever. All of this through sampling, all through artistic theft. You know, I think we gotta talk about it now.
What might you be referring to? Oh no. Please, I don't want to talk about that.
I get that you have a little bit of a history with that, but I think it is an appropriate time to discuss AI.
She was such a B-word. Ailey Eisenberg was honestly a parrot. Like, she just kept regurgitating the same recycled stuff over and over again, and it was just such a pain. I just had to break up with her, man. I should have known that it wasn't going to work out anyway after I realized she was actually a computer and not a real person sitting inside a TV like me. Totally incompatible.
Oh, I get you. I remember asking her to show me a bear, and it was a Frankenstein monster of an image. I don't even think it could breathe. Actually, do you still have that image?
Oh, yeah. Here.
Oh God. Oh, I think I'm gonna be sick. Let's take a break for a sec. Oh, fuck. I think we have to address the AI-shaped elephant in the room. Part of my motivation to make this video was not only to talk about Nintendo as a source of inspiration, but the state of the creative world as a whole. Just like many of you probably watching, I've seen a very large uptick in AI-generated content on the internet and in real life. Recently, there was that Studio Ghibli trend on Twitter that had people generate images in the style of Ghibli movies. Even the White House, the fucking official White House account, got in on the trend, which is horrifying to say the least. YouTube is constantly pushing AI-generated content as well, which affects you guys in bear bites too. I've been accused of being AI, which is concerning because my boyfriend and I would have kind of like a her situation going on. Regardless, wherever you go, it is hard to escape AI and the very passionate supporters of it. Supporters that claim, among other reasons that can be debunked, that AI-generated content is no different from sampling. You are taking a pre-existing work and using it for something different, so what's the issue? Well, ethics aside, AI generation is not sampling, like, at all. As I said, sampling is the act of reusing a pre-existing work to some degree to incorporate in your own work. And looking just at this tool on a surface level, AI might seem to do just this. After all, the backbone of any generative model is the works of other people. AI doesn't know what Studio Ghibli is, but from references and keywords it can get an idea of what it looks like. Your model doesn't necessarily understand jazz, but from audio snippets and training it can get a rough idea of what it sounds like. But the critical thing to take into account with this comparison isn't the results, because let's face it, if you aren't an admirer of these art forms, which most of the AI bros aren't, you wouldn't know the difference between the slop and the real thing. A little bit about myself. I specialized in AI for my comp sci degree in college. I was curious and the school promotes specialization. I knew some people taking the classes and I ended up joining the guild. I don't really talk about it that much because I'm not a fucking nerd, but also I felt after studying the subfield, it felt against my reason for why I wanted to code. Ignoring the financials, the main reason I wanted to be a software engineer was that I got to be creative for a living. Coding is an art form of itself, problem solving in sometimes non-intuitive ways to pave a way forward. It felt as fulfilling as a salary job could be, but the more I studied AI, the more that creative side disappeared. The models we were creating, the models that companies pay for, mostly result in a skeleton of the real thing. Yeah, automation is one thing, but the generative stuff, it wasn't a tool like sampling. I saw under the hood myself. Generative AI was the bearer of the product, the beginning and the ending. The real comparison between AI and sampling begins and ends with the process, the intent. When a musician samples a record for their new song, it gives insight and a peek into their artistic vision and influence. When Daft Punk created their final album, 2013's Random Access Memory, everything from their childhood came into play with the sound they wanted to create. It was widely different from their previous works because they wanted to venture into their childhood heroes' visions. That's why Giorgio Moroder and Paul Williams are even featured. Going back to Toby Fox again, his Nintendo and gaming influences are worn on his sleeve as a badge of honor. His idea to use Nintendo's game design philosophy to elevate his own work was a deliberate choice. There was artistic expression there, and regardless of the result, a human sat down, thought about what they wanted to do, and consciously used their life experience to deliver on that idea. AI cannot and will not be able to achieve this experience simply for the fact that it cannot treat references as art and expressions. Models do not know the intent, they do not know the reasoning, they can only consume media as a product to shit out another product. It completely completely goes against not only the idea of sampling, but art in general. Video games, movies, music, paintings, sculptures, books, these are all observations of the world around us and reflections of the human condition. There is intent behind every page, every pixel, and every frame of a work, even if it is bad art, because someone sat down and put in the effort. They thought of their life and experiences, processed it, and conveyed expression through that. It's effort. There really isn't a better term for it. Artistic theft, sampling takes a lot of effort. AI simply cannot compare, and ignoring the crap quality of the end result, doesn't it just take out the fun of creation? Okay, let's look at an example. Let's look at Breath of the Wild. This game is a love letter to the evolution of Zelda's design over the years. Explicitly, the developers wanted to go back to what made that very first game on NES special and revision that spirit in the modern day. Open world games have evolved tremendously since the OG Zelda broke the mold in '86, and Nintendo wanted to reflect on that change. People in 2017 were calling it Zelda Skyrim, and ultimately the Elder Scrolls games can be traced back to the Zelda series for influence. So Nintendo not only had to comprehend their own history, but the history of the genre that they helped define to create that reflection. It samples because it understands the chain of events, which AI can't possibly do. The game design of Breath of the Wild has intent right down to the first area. The old man is literally guiding you. How on the nose can you get? AI wouldn't understand the significance of the moment, but only deal with it as a product. It is an end result, Machiavellian in a way. The people who gravitate towards this AI art, claiming to be artists themselves and shit on the real artist, are the same who think in this manner. Why care about the process or the history when I can create a product just like the other artist? I can generate splattered paint on a canvas. What makes Pollock so special? Look, I made an image look like a Ghibli movie. What makes them so special? My AI generated game plays exactly like Zelda. What makes Nintendo so special?
You have no skills and you're a loser!
This problem of treating art like a product goes much deeper than just AI. It's a trend that ultimately stems from jealousy and even hatred. I think everyone has had a desire once in their life to act on a creative tendency or idea. Desire being the key word here. Rarely do people actually go for it. Whether due to time or being afraid of learning and putting in the work, its results are the same. It feels impossible, but it isn't. Being creative is an uphill battle, sure, but it isn't impossible. Every day you do something, little by little it builds. Consistency and learning through your already busy life. Through that life experience, you pull in some of those points into your expressions, and maybe something builds from there too. Where does it build to? Well, that's up to you. But that journey, those shoulders you stood on, that is ultimately what will make your work art.
You're preaching to the choir here, but something that bothers me about this is the uncertainty of this technology being here. It's Pandora's box. You can't just get rid of it. Like, where do we go from here?
Well, that's the thing, dude. I genuinely don't know where this is all gonna go. I don't think any of us know. These works are just there for the taking, and it's up to people and real creatives to uphold their meaning. All of us, myself included, like to take the piss out of Nintendo for their anti-consumer practices and weird financial decisions. I get that. But there's something to be said about its place as a well of influence, something creatives for generations can come to and drink from to make their own works that could last for generations too. I just worry that AI is gonna poison the well, make Nintendo and other forms of art into products and end results rather than examining what makes them so special. And if this AI slop continues, if we keep treating art as just a product to consume, then future generations will ask the question with no answer. They'll just keep asking, what makes Nintendo so special?